Alright, so basically, this video was made in response to the tweet Bungie made. I wrote this live on stream to hear people's opinions about the matter. So Bungie went out yesterday and they asked for feedback. They asked about feedback for PvP. They said, "Happy Twit Guardians, we would like to hear from all PvP players out there on what kind of changes to the Crucible you would like to see in the future, whether it's playlist preference, matchmaking settings, trials, competitive. Please post your feedback below." And if you see the tweet of me posting this, I would recommend to retweet it so it's a higher chance of it reaching them basically. But anyway, let's start with the first thing we talked about, and it was comp. So comp is an interesting game mode because, there's not really any reason to play it right now. It doesn't have a top 500 system, doesn't have a really rewards whatsoever. So let me go over the points that I made. So it would change the matchmaking from SBMM to ranked based. That means you can only matchmake with people around the same rank, aka one division below or above you. If you play with someone who are more than one division in between us, you can simply not queue. It would allow for a more rank-based game mode compared to a skill-based matchmaking game mode. I would also like to see a seasonal/annual ornament for seasonal rank placements, like you have in Valorant, for example, where it will display your last rank, where you get like a buddy or something. I think that's a great way of showing your efforts. If you play a certain amount of games, whenever the season ends or the episode, you will get a buddy for your weapons that you can display and show off to other people. So what I said was for competitive, it's for comp, weapons, or unique armor. So I was thinking mainly for weapon ornaments in some way. It could be anything from buddies to anything from, an ornament that would match your rank. So if you we're gonna come back to this point, but I said, so for players that get placed in a top 500 spot, they would get a challenger ornament. Because once we get to the point, actually I'm just gonna go over it now. Top 500 leaderboards with rewards. So the hardcore players have something to compete with. Because it's a competitive playlist, this can be anything from titles, emblems to ornaments, etc. It is a competitive game mode after all, and having a top of the hill would be something a lot of Destiny 2 players would look for in a competitive playlist, right? An incentive to play. I have some incentives, which is currency for upgrading comp weapons. So you get it after winning games. This will allow you to, for example, enhance traits or make the weapon adept. Like the Overwatch Golden Gun currency, where whenever you win a game, you get points that you can spend after a while to make a Golden Gun. And then you have the trait increase based off rank. So it's like resetting a playlist vendor. So it allows you to get up to three traits in one column. It's basically, have you ever reset Gambit, Crucible, or Vanguard strikes enough times where you start to get multiple traits in the same column? This would be the same thing, but it increases based off your rank. So if you're Ascendant, it's like you have the highest chance to get anything, right? I think it would be a lot more incentivizing to win games just in general, just thinking about you can get multiple enhanced traits and multiple traits on the same weapon. And then on top of that, it gives random drops of weapon wins, just like playing a 7-win card after going flawless. It gives incentive to farm the playlist and a reason to win. So you're not locked behind 3 weapons a week. Instead, you can actually keep playing the playlist and keep winning to get more drops. And then the last point that I have, it's open up more about performance on points gained/loss from games. This will allow players to gain insight for why they gain/lose X amount of points. Think about it. I still feel like we can't see the reasoning to why sometimes I get +5 and sometimes I get -500, And I would really enjoy to see this. Now let's talk about the game mode structure itself. More objective-based game modes. Rift without messed up spawns. Rift is a really good game mode. It's not just kill and win. You need team coordination to win. It's the same with Countdown, another great game mode, but I think comp would be a better playlist if it was a 4v4. Most maps in the game are made for 4v4, and it balances out more of the gameplay. And then Control. Control is an objective kill-based game mode, so you need to capture zones to be able to win, but you still need to kill people. So it wouldn't remove the survival, and Showdown is awful, by the way. Get rid of it, please. But it wouldn't completely remove it, because back in the day we used to have Clash, supremacy, comp, countdown, and all of these game modes inside of comp. And I think it was a better and a healthier playlist with more game modes and more variety. But it was also 4v4 back then, and I think we should go back to that because that's just how most maps in the games are designed. Bungie is fully aware of this, and I want to hear why they haven't done it. A lot of people have been suggesting 4v4 to come to place. But yeah, I think Rift and Countdown would be two amazing game modes to keep and have in comp. And then a comp-specific sandbox. Just like you guys have talked about with Checkmate, with more gunplay over abilities, it makes other classes not outshine one another. And you will need more communication to win fights over just putting down a barricade. Also, would not mind seeing us banning certain exotics that give unfair advantages. I think coming to a competitive-based game mode, being able to ban certain exotics by voting on them would be a great change of pace. You know how it's in Siege. And on top of that, I think map voting for, certain maps should be allowed for comp because it's comp, or map banning, so you can't get certain maps. Just like in Siege. I'm going over other video games because they have great ways to make competitive more enjoyable and more reliable. The thing about Destiny, it's like a fucking coin flip if you get survival or showdown, and it's like a fucking coin flip if you get a good map or not. With some of these changes, it would give a bigger incentive than playing more than 9 games a week, and allow the population to grow as a whole. Remember, this is a competitive playlist. There's no reason to be inclusive for everyone. You're supposed to compete to be the best. That's the whole point. If there's anything you guys need to know more about comp, then be sure to comment stuff down below. I would say this about any points that I make throughout this video. If you think I missed something on a certain playlist or certain changes, then please let me know. These are just some changes that would make the game overall more healthy in my opinion, and some personal changes that I would like to see and, might make the game a little bit more enjoyable. Trials. Remove duo queue as a whole. For someone who solo queues, it will just be up to RNG on whoever gets the better 2-stack. But in an all-solo lobby, it's more free for all because there's no set communication between people. And it also destroys 3-stacking queues. Because for a more competent team, they have found the most optimal way is just to 2-stack, which makes 3-stacking useless. It's true, 2-stacking is just way more optimal than 3-stacking, and if you want longer games, more close games, you would 3-stack, or if you're doing a carry as a 2-stack. And I think it would help the solo queue experience a lot and the 3-stacking experience a lot. It would help both of those to grow and kill off the one that's killing the playlist. The current trial setup has a big flaw gameplay-wise. Your super is useless unless it's a bubble or a well, and those two can change the whole game as a whole. Trials basically punishes you for playing Hunter in general. You don't have any valuable class ability like a barricade that allows you to get zone/map control. Void Titans are super strong for zones. They outshine everything else. There's no other point to run anything else, and it makes it so Titans are just the best class, and if you want to win, which is what the objective of the game mode is, you play Titan. Map control is so super strong, especially with zones. If you get control over zone, you basically win the round. And guess what Titans can do? They can just poop out a shield right in front of the zone and suddenly have an overshield. Don't remove trials when Iron Banner is out. It's another great point. I think people feel forced to play Iron Banner at this point, and it makes the game mode overall more miserable, especially with a slow-paced game mode like Fortress. People want to play Trials every weekend. That's how I understood it. And especially now, it feels really fucking annoying that I can't go in and play Trials right now. What people seek from Trials is an experience to never forget, like going flawless for the first time or clutching a very intense game, and the rewards are on point right now, but the current system feels very one-sided in what you can play and how you can play. I think the rewards are there, but not the gameplay. I think most people will agree with that. Then you have the security part. I went over this earlier today, and I don't want to go into too much, but basically if you want to understand what a cheat is, go and watch one of my other videos. I should be able to link it in the description. But basically, a quick explanation is, cheating software is basically a way to reverse engineer the game to not get detected by the anti-cheat, which is why it surpasses the anti-cheat to begin with. But What I said is increase security from third-party software and hardware, have random ban waves, often but random enough to catch cheaters off guard. If something suspicious is detected, don't just kick them to the title screen, give them a warning or a suspension. So if it repeatedly happens, they will get a suspension until a ban, but at least they get warnings every time they get detected so they know that there's something wrong. Some sort of replay system where you can watch your enemy's point of view. This would allow you to watch in case someone is using aimbot or wall hacks. You can tell on their gameplay as in general, especially with aimbot, because you can see if someone sticks on the target or not. It's like watching someone play on controller and then you know suddenly the aim assist sticks in, the aim stickiness, and then bam, brrr, you know, never miss a bullet. No, but aim assist is usually 10 times more potent and it's very easy to watch gameplay wise. Make a team that's almost 24/7 for ban reports, which means they have a team that doesn't take weekends off. They have people who take work days off for weekends to work at, so they can go through and have people make sure that there is people getting banned all the time and getting through the report system. Because the next one is give people options to write reasons for reports and also give insight on how the report system works. Because currently we have no clue. We just one day log in and say, hey, thank you for whatever, because someone got banned. We don't know why they got banned, and we don't know how the report system works in general. I think it's really, really interesting because I want to at least understand how you guys go through reports and how people get banned. So, you know, it makes it easier for us to understand what to do if we actually match cheater. Cheating is a big problem in every video game. The only difference is effort the game studio puts in themselves. If Bungie really wants no cheater whatsoever, they can do something to stand out themselves. There's not much to say at this point because a cheat is supposed to reverse engineer the anti-cheat itself, and it will always be hard to keep up with the cheating software or hardware because remember, they make money off of this. This is their job, some of them. So they will do whatever they can to keep going because it's easy and scummy and, you know, they get money from low-life losers or people who are really bored of video games. Let's go over to something a little bit more interesting. Iron Banner. Every time Iron Banner comes around, there is some sort of cheese to win games faster. And the overall experience is mostly on fun. People also feel like they're missing rewards at this point from Iron Banner, like we used to feel. Like with ornaments and certain weapons, games just feel way too slow, and forcing you to use certain armor and weapons for a certain increase in rep is stupid. All these game modes have something bad with them. Eruption, you get punished for being good, Fortress is way too slow, and the matchmaking just feels unfun and unrewarding. With Fortress, I would like to see a reduction in the score so the game ends faster, and show the kills in the end. It also has the same problem as Trials, where some classes, aka Titans, have a really big advantage, aka Void Titans with barricades as a whole. And then with Eruption, remove the wall hacks so people who are playing well won't get punished over it. Because what a lot of people do, they just run away. They just run away whenever they see you, so you just explode. Or at least reduce the time so you won't be a walking target until you die. As rewards in general, many people want to see the ornament sets from back in year 1, and the weapons that wasn't brought back with the legacy focusing. Except for that, I think the biggest issue right now is matchmaking, and the fact that we don't get trials, because then it feels just forced to play Iron Banner. I still play Relic over it. Next one on the list is Labs. I always enjoy Labs. It's my go-to playlist for one specific reason. It's usually in a right game mode, and it's pure CPMM. No long waiting times, it doesn't feel like I have to try my hardest, and the connection feels great. This playlist is what the rest should feel like, so keep up the great work. In reality of it, I don't think Labs is a bad game mode. I think it's actually pretty fun and, you know, enjoyable. And it's a cool way to experiment with different game modes. I'm interested to see how Checkmate's gonna feel because that's gonna be more focused on gameplay wise. The Rotator playlist, the party modes. I don't mind this one, not gonna lie, but I only played for momentum, and I think that's a lot of people out there in the same boat. People enjoy the playlist because it's pure CBMM, remember that? So I'll say it again. Quick matchmaking, good connections, and I don't have to try my hardest. If Bungie would make momentum into its own thing, so you can play it at any time, I know way too many people who only plays when momentum's out. But I think this playlist is in a good spot. This is also a playlist that's in a good spot, the party playlist. And then you have the Relentless weekly playlist as well. This is the other playlist right next to Quick Play. This playlist sucks. The first thing I want to change is the matchmaking from SBMM to CBMM. So if you aren't trying to play scrims, then it would make it feel a little better. Then I would make it into a 3v3 playlist so we have a way to play a casual 3v3 playlist, and we won't have to play trials or comp, because those are the only two options at the moment. Comp is supposed to be competitive, to compete to be the best, and trials is supposed to be, in the same way, the same thing. The whole point of it is winning over and over. That's what trials, and the same thing for comp, but we don't have a casual 3v3 playlist, and there's a lot of people who are seeking something like that. So, Bungie, really keep that in mind whenever you are making new game modes. Make a 3v3 playlist. People would love to see that. Rumble, nothing to change. Rumble does what it's supposed to do. There's no SBMM, BS, just a casual free-for-all. Then you have Quick Play. This game was overall boring from my experience. It's usually the last thing I pick for many reasons, and the biggest one is skill-based matchmaking. After Bungie added it, I just quit playing it. I don't want to sit there for 20 minutes to find the sweatiest lobby with awful connections. Also, the fact that we don't have a map voting system yet is crazy. There are so many times where people just leave as soon as the game starts because we got a bad map. The only change I would mind seeing is adding CBMM and adding a map voting system like you have in many other shooters. And I think this would make the game Quick Play slightly more enjoyable. I think that's good. Let's go over to the last playlist, which is private matches. Back in D1, we had way more many options with PMs, especially than we do in D2. We had options to turn off heavy ammo, we could play any game mode and any map. That's not the case with Destiny 2. Give us more options. There are many people who just want to have fun with friends. So give PMs the customization, more customizable ways to play and have fun with friends. Possible spawn locations, abilities, exotics, sparrows, and quirky things like that. They don't have to be big changes, but they will give people who want more fun with their friends more fun with their friends. I really enjoyed PMs back in D1 playing combined arms, or play on the really big maps and just try to snipe each other. You had basically infinite special if you wanted to because of the way the economy worked back then. And I think PMs in D1 was a little bit better. You could turn off heavy, so if you didn't want someone just to run around with heavy all game, you could just turn it off. And you could also increase or decrease spawns, and it was really cool. Okay, we've gone to that was the first half of the video. It's talking about playlists, and now I'm going to meta and gameplay. We're gonna start off with abilities. There are way too many things that happen after 30th anniversary. We got the subclass 3.0s, and they were cool and quirky, but they made gameplay miserable in the high end of PvP gameplay. The subclass trees were balanced in a way where you didn't just allow you to run the best shit without any punishment. There was things to consider when playing with these, but now you just pick whatever's best and there's no drawbacks. The 3.0 system was made as a way to make people use more variety, but at the end of the day, everyone who wants to perform the best just use the same stuff. Because ability power creep is so unreal in both PvE and PvP. Salty Greppo loves to hear that, right, from a PvP player. One thing that could make things a lot better is cap everyone's abilities to the same charge rate. Now that sounds really bad, but it also will base off your grenade and whatever abilities you're using. But it doesn't make it so you can just run 100 discipline to throw a grenade every 10 seconds. Because this is still Destiny, and you should not have like a CS or a Val effect where you can only buy/use X amount of per round. So we can't look away from build crafting and still take that into effect on how your setup is. So that's not what I mean. Like, I think build crafting should still take a big part of PvP. I just think being able to throw 10 fucking grenades a second is so dumb because you run 100 discipline with Young Amkar Spine. That exotic needs to be looked at. So with Intea's wards, I am not going over exotic armor and unbalanced exotics in this video. I'm just going over some weapon changes, ability changes, and things that I would like to see. First point here is pretty funny. Shutdown supers are way too strong, which they are. I think there's just, in 6s especially, there's just no reason to run anything but shutdowns. And if you're not playing trials, shutdown supers are really, really fucking strong because in, say, comp, you can just shut down whoever gets the first roaming. And you can also shut down bubbles and wells, but bubbles and wells have their issues themselves, and that's really only in trials. But you have passive abilities that buffs you overall, like knockout. The way you activate is just breaking a shield or making someone weak. You gain increased melee damage and lunge. On top of that, you reach in after melee kills. And on top of that, you get amped, so that's a lot for just one kill. It's why we see so many Arc Titans out there. It's very easy to use and it has a really high reward, but low risk. Then you have fragments and aspects that buff grenades. I don't think something like that should be in PvP. It feels way too unbalanced just to casually one-shot someone with a grenade. And I don't think abilities should be removed or anything like that. That's not what I'm coming at. I want the build crafting aspect to still be in the game. I just think for competitive reasons, it's way too easy to use, something like what I just mentioned. It should be tuned back a little, and yes, this should specifically be for comp. Something like that where it locks your abilities and shit like that. It goes back to what I said earlier. A custom comp sandbox where you can ban certain things and certain abilities will be disabled. Because Bungie knows themselves, there's definitely abilities that's very unbalanced for PvP as general. And I'm gonna go back to Knockout. This goes for all passives. Knockout is just the greatest example because it's so easy to activate. All you need to do is break someone's shield to make them weak, and Knockout in general is just the reason why Arc Titans are so strong. On top of that, they have an aspect that buffs your grenade. So the two things I just mentioned is the reason Titans are really, really strong, especially Arc Titans. I'm gonna keep saying this, but things that buff grenades is really broken in PvP. And it will always be, because being able to one-shot someone with a grenade is really, really dumb. It removes the whole point of gunplay, and it removes the whole point of, pushing, because you just toss in a grenade and you kill someone. But yeah, I think passive abilities, some of them are really overtuned and some of them are really weak. I think Bungie should look at them and maybe try to balance it out a little more. I don't really have specific things that I want just removed from PvP. I just say small changes that might make the game experience a little better overall. I'm not going to sit here and talk about every single ability in the game. That could be a whole nother video where I talk specifically about abilities. Anyway, I'm gonna go over to the next point, which is AE. This only really affected hunters in a way. It had the highest use rate of any class, but at the same time forcing people to play other classes to keep up with the meta just doesn't sit right. More people were a fan of hunters just jumping around than what we have now, where you sit behind a barricade and then slide them with Antaeus wards. Most people like fast movement, fast gameplay in general. It's what makes Destiny, Destiny. AE doesn't really fit with a lot of players, and also it makes the movement class irrelevant. Now we only have one class that could really be in the air without any punishment, and it's Warlock Solar, which is why it's the meta, plus on top of that is Well of Radiance. And it doesn't make it better that Hunters are the only class with downtime on their movement exotic. Yeah, it's true. Hunters are really the only class with downtime on their movement exotic. Think about this. I'm gonna talk this specifically because I think it's a little bit dumb. Gary posted a tweet yesterday saying unnerf stompies, and I agree. The only difference is I'm not too sure about the jump. The jump is something else of its own, because listen to this. Warlocks can run to reload. That's their special ability about their movement exotic. Titans have an arc chain that they get from running, which is their special thing, and hunters jump. Now, I don't know which sounds more broken and sounds the weakest, but hunters jump. But they're the only one who, if you use your class ability, you lose the mobility buff that you sprint with, and the slide doesn't increase, and all of that. You just become a normal gym without an exotic. So, try to think of it this way. I think it's a little bit crazy how, that's a thing. I would definitely take a look at it, Bungie, and let me know what you guys think. And I think Bungie should at least experiment with game modes that, has perfect accuracy in the air and see how players find it. I think that would be a good game mode. I think it would be an interesting way to experiment with AE in general and see how people would play without it. They definitely can do it. I know that for sure. We just got checkmate this season, which means that they can do something else similarly with jumping in the air. Okay, now it's my last point of the video, and it's weapon balancing. Okay, so gunplay is something that makes Destiny 2 Destiny 2. Usually the first thing that comes to mind is how unique Henken feels compared to other games. Now, with the aim assist on weapons is something that should stay. The only thing I would like to see change is something, in some sense, AE, but I talked about that earlier. Instead, I want to talk about weapon archetypes, and I'm going to start with primary weapons. Let's start with the elephant in the room, which is, and no, it's not 720 SMGs. It's actually 340 pulse rifles, with them having a better TTK than an aggressive SMG, which is the same as a 720. It's actually, yep, an aggressive SMG has a 0.75 TTK compared to a high impact pulse that has a 0.67 at tier 10 resilience. I'm surprised that this hasn't changed. Same with 180 scouts, specifically precision frames scouts with box breathing. It has a 0.67 TTK. Now I know SMGs are in a really good spot right now, but I don't think a weapon that has the range drop off at 81 meters got a better TTK than a weapon with 22 fall off. Think about that. A weapon with 81 meters got a better time to kill than a weapon with 22, which is what weapon everyone complains about, which is SMGs. Now, if you remember back when Bungie gave us the reasoning for us getting Disjunction, Cathedral of Dust, and Eternity, last year they said, we want to give scouts and pulse rifles a time to shine and a reason for people to use it. People don't really want the back of the map meta. Instead of fast movement, everything happening at once, gameplay is what most people know Destiny for. And sadly, in a game like Destiny, you don't get a penalty for sitting in the back of the map and just literally do nothing. It's very unfun for other players and it makes the gameplay boring as a whole. Now, I'm not saying people can't use scout rifles and pulse rifles. What I'm saying is, a long-range weapon should still be best at its intended range, just it can't be killing faster than something like an SMG. With an SMG, you have to get close, but with the pulse you can sit and spawn and get the same result and even better. The way I want Destiny to feel is you can put on any weapon without feeling there's other weapon frames or archetypes outclassing something so much it's unusable. Some weapons that falls in this category is 180 RPM handguns, 200 RPM handguns, 360 RPM auto rifles, 900 RPM SMGs. And that's just some examples of weapons types that's useless and outclassed. The last thing I want to talk about is flinch, specifically explosive and time payload. I think this feature on primary flinch should be changed and removed as a whole. I'm not saying this because it's a good way to counter snipers in the game, but losing a gunfight because he has AP on his weapon is really dumb. Gameplay wise, the perk gives you increased range, the payload don't have any damage fall off, so it makes it harder for, enemies to hit your back. Because you get hit twice and it's very, I think it's the best dueling perk in the game, and it's the only perk that I'm going to talk about, mainly because of how strong it is in primary fights. And also talking about weapons still, I'm going to say the best weapons in the game right now, the best meta pick would be Void Titan with Antaeus Ward, a fusion rifle, and a pulse rifle. I think really that's the best meta in the game right now. And then I'm not going to talk about specials too much because there are way too many there are not too many changes I want to see. But first of all, snipers are the most broken weapon in the game. It's not cope, it's based on facts the weapon can do. It's the only weapon in the game that can one-shot you at any point, and it makes it super good in low player activities where you are the first to a lane and will win gunfights before the enemy can even shoot back. But we already knew that, and I don't have any changes in mind. I can only think of lowering the stickiness on controller and specifically on snipers and lowering the aim assist value in general. But I'm really here to talk about fusions. A fusion will be better than any shotgun in the whole game. A good fusion player will never need to worry about anything but a sniper. It makes shotguns weak in comparison, and no, it doesn't make shotguns specifically bad, just really outclassed. I think most players will agree, and I don't know how to balance fusions in general because, the way it works, but I think it's valuable enough to be looked at and maybe try to balance it a little more. But a change that I know people want to see is scav mods in 6s, so you can actually get more ammo. Well, I went over some of the changes I would like to see, and I asked my community as well. PvP feels a lot better this season compared to last. I feel like I can use whatever I want almost, aka Hankins again. And I know for sure the last thing people want is a stale meta and slow and boring gameplay. I really love PvP and I want to see good changes happen. I hope this really reaches a Bungie dev and the Bungie Destiny 2 team. If you go on Twitter, please retweet my tweet so, more people will see it and hopefully it reaches more people. I think there's a lot of good changes in here, but I also think there's something more I need to talk about. Please, comment in the comments. This video has a lot of information in it, and I hope you really enjoyed this video. Anyway, I'll see you all around, and if there's something I forgot to touch on, comment in the comments, please. And yeah, this was also streamed live on Twitch, so I wrote this whole script live on chat, and it was a lot of fun. I got a lot of different inputs with it, so I'll see you guys around.